If you think that the only real leftists are Marxist, Leninist, Maoists who spend every night jerking off to Das Kapital, you are free to think that, but all you're doing is hurting your own movement by participating in pointless gatekeeping that makes no one want to join your side.
This is why you write scripts, so you don't have to do a horrible intro, to be frank. So the election happened, yeah, that was pretty fun, I guess. So, we all know the results, Harris sold the campaign. Like, this is, like, comically terrible, like, Jesus Christ, Clinton did better than this. So naturally, most people are pretty upset at this result. A lot of people are upset at this result, and for a very obvious reason. But, Ryan Beard, the commentary channel, does some pretty nice videos. I was a fan of him. They're nice. More editing than whatever I was making a month ago. But he's recently made a video saying, what do we do with these election results? What should we go about doing, and how should we take this? Maybe he's gonna give us some insight on how he feels, maybe he's gonna give a new original take on this, maybe he's even gonna, you know, pave the way for a new sort of idea.
If you think that the only real leftists are Marxist, Leninist, Maoists who spend every night jerking off to Das Kapital...
My god, dude. I have problems with this video. I have a lot of problems with this video, actually. I'm not gonna pretend like I don't have any problems with this video. So, let's just rip the band-aid right off, why don't we?
Hey guys, wow, right now I'm kind of feeling like I fell out of a coconut tree. Am I right? Ha 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 ha.
Just to touch on this, as someone who thought that the coconut tree meme was kind of funny at the time of the election, this kind of humor, as well as her generally terrible optics, is another reason why the campaign was completely sold. This isn't what people wanted, like, whatsoever, and I'll touch on that in a bit more.
So, like a lot of people on the left on social media right now, I am feeling pretty depressed.
Notice how he says the left? I'll touch on that in a bit.
As of today, Republicans have taken the presidency, the Supreme Court, the Senate, and they're most likely going to take the House of Representatives.
Just wait 2 years, buddy. Just wait 2 years. I beg of thee.
And not just your standard neocon Republicans, MAGA Republicans who have openly tried to overthrow democracy and who have threatened to put all of their political rivals in prison or deport them. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is very, very bad. This is probably the worst possible case scenario.
I'd actually argue that this is best case scenario. Yeah, okay, let me explain. This is basic accelerationist theory. What's accelerationism, you may ask? Read, buddy. We cannot achieve socialism through normal democratic reformism, even if we ourselves are pro-democracy. So, to spark the flare, so to speak, we push our government to become so far right, it awakens the people to revolution, yet liberals, Beard, simply cast us off as, you know, insane thinking or too radical, as they all like to say. And we're going to see more of this defeatist attitude later on, because it's just absolutely what we need for a time like this.
Right now on social media, I'm seeing a lot of finger pointing and a lot of people placing blame on other people for why Kamala Harris lost the election.
I mean, I kind of wonder where that finger pointing is coming from, but like, you know, let's hear them out. Let's see what they have to say. I'm sure they won't do that, right?
So in this video, I am going to point a couple fingers and place a little bit of blame.
Sometimes I wonder why I try.
There are a bunch of complex factors and a bunch of failures from various groups of people that led to Donald Trump winning this election.
It's really not. It's more so a combination of the general populace, that being people conditioned to supporting an, at the end of the day, liberal capitalist system, and to support a guy who's presenting himself as a populist. Let me put it this way. If you're a 35-year-old white dude living in the Appalachias, would you want to vote for the guy whose manufactured image, and yes, manufactured image, is making America great again, the place that you live in and your family probably lives in, or the same milquetoast neoliberal figure your parents warned you about with Bill Clinton?
So I'm gonna go through the main reasons I think Kamala lost the election, and then at the end, I'm gonna try to give a message of hope for what we can do moving forward.
Alrighty, let's hear them out. Why not?
These are just my opinions. I am not a political analyst. I haven't studied political science. I'm just some random YouTuber giving my thoughts on what I think went wrong in this election.
Listen, I know I'm gonna get flack for making this video because Beard themselves admit that they aren't a political expert, but listen, Neither am I, and I don't feel like you need to be a political expert to understand any of this. You more so just need basic common sense.
I think the number one reason Kamala lost this election is high prices and inflation. Right now in America, prices are really high on things like gas and groceries. Donald Trump promised that he would lower these prices. Kamala also promised that she would lower these prices, but she's already the vice president, and a lot of people see her as an extension of Joe Biden. Kamala's promise to lower prices felt hollow to a lot of people because her and Joe Biden are already in power, so why not just lower prices now? A lot of people were tired of the Biden administration. Trump promised something different, so he won.
I'm just saying this kind of thing could have been solved if the Dems didn't step back on literally everything they had policy-wise. Trust me, this is a theme running here. We could have gotten a greater victory in the 2020 election that would have been able to pass things like the Build Back Better Act, have a massive industrial startup that could have maybe alleviated the pain of the post-COVID recession, but no.
Most economists agreed that Kamala's economic plan was going to be better for the economy, and that Trump's tariffs plan is going to be bad for the economy, and that his tax plan mostly only benefits the 1%.
Oh, trust me, they'll be great. So great. Thank you again, JD Pondon.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
And that his tax plan mostly only benefits the 1%.
Oh yeah, the 1%, like Kamala and Biden. Look, I get Trump falls even more into this category. He's the richest president in American history, but for God's sakes, Bernie is a millionaire, but he actually rallied the people to his calls of taxing the rich and getting done. Biden and Kamala ran a campaign based off just pure optics without understanding why and how they work. It's simple as.
Kamala also promised that she would lower these prices, but she's already the vice president, and a lot of people see her as an extension of Joe Biden. Kamala's promise to lower prices felt hollow to a lot of people because her and Joe Biden are already in power, so why not just lower prices now? A lot of people were tired of the Biden administration. Trump promised something different, so he won.
But they didn't, and they haven't for decades. So exactly why should we keep our faith in the Dems? Or the Republicans, for that matter? And even though Brandon did work to try to fix the economy, if the average person isn't seeing the results, me included, I really fail to understand why we should see it as a success. Prices haven't been good since 2008. Both parties have utterly failed to help with it in any way, shape, or form, really.
But a lot of your average voters just don't care about that. They see that prices are high, they blame those high prices on the current president, so they vote for someone else thinking that this will cause lower prices.
Yeah, why blame the literal most powerful man in the world of the most powerful country in the world for anything? Why would we ever do that?
What's the second biggest reason that I think Kamala lost the election? I honestly think it's that she's a black woman. I don't think most people would openly admit that they would never vote for a black woman, but I think for rural white voters especially, they just do not think that black women are fit for positions of power.
Yeah, and those people just weren't gonna vote for a Democrat anyways.
I think it's easy to get into liberal or leftist echo chambers where it seems ridiculous that anyone would ever choose to vote for someone based on their race or their gender, but unfortunately, a lot of America is just not as progressive as we wish it would be.
The people voting based off pure race are 90% white dudes living in red safe states in the South, not urban Pennsylvania or a Muslim community in Michigan, which there are actually quite a lot of, by the way.
And I think in the privacy of the voting booth, a lot of Americans showed that racism and misogyny are still alive and well in this country.
Am I gonna cite PragerU? Yeah, I'll cite PragerU. I'll cite the Judeo-Nazis for a bit.
Southern whites are far more likely to vote for a black conservative like Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina than a white liberal.
I'm sure a lot of people will get defensive over what I'm saying, and they'll say that they would never choose who they vote for because they're racist or misogynistic.
Yeah, you and the Democrats know a lot about that, and the Republicans, to be frank.
But I think these days, racism and misogyny are usually more subconscious, and a lot of times it manifests as people just getting bad vibes from black women. But I'm sorry, if you get bad vibes from Kamala because she laughs too much, but you don't get bad vibes from the bumbling, incoherent insurrectionist who has been held liable for raping a woman, then I think you need to take a long look at yourself in the mirror.
Okay, this coming from someone who actually kind of liked Kamala's laugh. To the median voter who has no actual politics, which is more likely to stand out to you?
Wants to be president who has consistently over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people.
But you know, we're really, and for us, we're not really even into political season, right? And we're getting crowds like this. We were all over the last couple of weeks. We like to troll. We like to go the night before one of their primaries. We do a little trolling. It's called We Do a Little Trolling.
Thought so.
Bumbling, incoherent insurrectionist.
No, what's wrong with that?
And I know that this is identity politics or whatever, but I think in general, if you want to figure out what is a good progressive choice to make...
Oh, you mean Jill Steiner, Colonel West, maybe even Claudia de la Cruz? Just maybe?
You should look to what black women are doing, and 92% of black women voted for Kamala.
Hey, rural Wisconsin who's been in debt since 2005, don't listen to yourself, your own judgment, or the current political climate. Listen to this group because of reasons. Look, I'm very progressive on identity politics. I'm a Republican nightmare, okay? But this kind of pretentious pandering is exactly why figures like Andrew Tate and others are able to sweep up disillusioned incels and virgins into their side. It's just not really a good rallying cry at all. Advocate for a community, a future, your home, your family, anything, just not this. Especially when you come off as so disingenuous sometimes.
And it's been really depressing seeing all of the black women who feel devastated by this election because they allowed themselves to feel hope for a change, and I'm just sorry that we all let you down.
On second thought, yeah, it is our fault we let you down. Sorry that you threw a hissy fit so hard that liberal colleges closed down the country post-election at grief instead of seeing the clear positives in the situation. Us members of the working class must bend and plead to you for forgiveness. Yeah, you see how f***ing annoying this might come off to someone who's already feeling annoyed with the current liberal system.
The third biggest reason I think Kamala lost this election is her campaign just did not excite Democratic voters.
Finally! Okay, I don't have much to say to this. Ryan is generally right here, and I thank you for this section. But with all this in mind, why exactly are we still trying to defend the Democrats?
I just don't think most Democrats were super excited to vote for someone who bragged about being endorsed by Dick Cheney, one of the most evil politicians in modern American history. I just don't think that most people wanted a milquetoast neoliberal candidate who spent a bunch of her time kowtowing to Republicans.
Yeah, and the DSA wasted their time trying to cozy up with sad lukewarm neoliberals. You as a self-proclaimed Democratic socialist would know a lot about that.
I think Obama was so popular because he ran on the promise of change. We have now seen the public reject Hillary.
I wonder why!
Reject Biden.
I wonder why!
So in 2028, I pray to God that it is finally time to run someone like Bernie Sanders, who is not afraid to appeal to the working...
You're putting your expectations for these people way too goddamn high. If the Dems chose AOC for 2028, assuming we'll have an election one way or another that year, I'll eat my Molotov cocktail. Seriously, I'll do it.
I saw this tweet from a liberal that perfectly encapsulates my problem with liberals. CNN has a story titled, "Where the Harris Campaign Went Wrong." Nope, I won't read it. Harris ran a great campaign. The story should be titled, "Where the American People Went Wrong."
I know they don't agree with this, but I found it funny, so I'm keeping it in the video.
The left is supposed to be the side that cares about the working class, but we have done an absolutely terrible job at appealing to the working class. And this goes for both liberals and leftists.
You act like the Democrats are on the left wing at all. I'm sorry, but as an actual communist, I don't consider anything to the right of anti-capitalism as left. That's my personal judgment, but it's how a lot of other leftists see it, so...
Yes, part of the reason the right wing appeals to the working class is because they pump billions of dollars into promoting right-wing propaganda, but...
Okay, side note here, daily writing numbers post-election, Lamau.
If the left wants to stop losing, it has to get better at appealing to the working class. And I'm sorry, but that includes appealing to young white men. I understand that the last thing a lot of people want to hear right now is how much more we need to appeal to young white men after they just voted to take a bunch of minorities' rights away. But this is just the reality.
Thank you. Thank you for a good take. I thank you.
I'm sorry, but we need our own versions of Joe Rogan and Andrew Tate.
We actually do, believe it or not. Seriously, these two are good channels. Go watch them. Here's more, actually. There's a lot of good leftist content. It's sort of just flanderized by the right for some reason, even though it's really not as bad or even bad at all as some claim it to be. Yes, Vosh is a liberal. He's not part of the left, please.
And Elon Musk, except not terrible people. We need way more men on the left to step up and start showing young men that we genuinely care about them, while also not being afraid to hold young men accountable for their actions. I think Bernie was the perfect example of someone who appealed to working class men while still standing up for women's rights, and I think we need more candidates like him in the future. And mostly, I think that men need to start building stronger bonds and community with other men in the way that women tend to do. And instead of just saying, oh well, who cares that you're lonely, I hope you kill yourself, I think we should explain to them that one of the main reasons men are so lonely is the exploitation from the upper class, which is causing men to become more separate and isolated from each other.
Everything here is pretty good, actually. Seriously, thank you for advocating for volunteering and community building. Local communities and these type of groups are generally like the best thing you could do right now is join one and care for your neighbors. I also feel like the entire left should step up and try to do this kind of thing.
Finally, I think the fourth biggest reason that Kamala lost the election is that a lot of people online were actively encouraging people to not vote for her, and a lot of them were harassing people who said they would vote for her.
Here we go! Here we go, boys! Here's why I made this video!
And a lot of them were harassing people who said they would vote for her.
I'd also harass somebody who's voting for the capitalist, imperialist, genocidal woman who's gonna send more bombs to Israel to flatten Jenin. I hope you do too.
In 2020, I saw a lot of enthusiasm from young people who were excited to vote for Joe Biden so they could get Donald Trump out of office. But in 2024, a lot of online leftist creators were actively encouraging people to not vote for Kamala, which I do think helped lead to a lack of enthusiasm among young voters.
Yeah, because we want these sock Dems at best and fascists at worst are never gonna help out the working class. Biden busted unions, Kamala's tagging along right with them. You even admit this in your own video. There's a whole line about this in one of the most famous socialist songs in America.
But communists around the world, we have the real solution. Reforms won't lead to workers' power. What we need is revolution. Should I ever be a soldier, beneath the red flag I will fight. Should a gun I ever shoulder, it's to crush the boss's might. Join Progressive Labor Party, men and women fall in line. Wage slaves of the world unite, do your duty for the cause of workers' liberty.
Right-wing content creators did a great job at getting young Gen Z men excited about voting for Trump, but leftist content creators did the exact opposite and discouraged Gen Z women from voting for Kamala.
Yeah, because this was so exciting.
And I understand that a lot of leftists were saying to not vote for Kamala because her support of Israel was a moral line in the sand, but because of your rhetoric, you helped Trump win.
Single issue vote. Single issue vote. Yeah, why would you decide your vote over just one little teensy-wincy issue like genocide? If you're Palestinian, this is how little liberals care about you. They're completely okay with voting for your death if it means they can feel safe. It doesn't matter that the genocide in Gaza is gonna get worse under Trump. I'm not voting for genocide. This is like saying you support Ukraine as a Russian then voting for Putin because he's able to stop the Russian economy from, like, completely collapsing, considering how similar Brandon and Kamala were. I really don't feel like she generally believes in her more lenient stance on Palestine she was described as having, which still includes sending top-notch weapons and bombs to Israel to murder civilians in Gaza, Lebanon, the West Bank, and Syria, and probably more in the future while Ukraine gets 30-year-old equipment to desperately and valiantly defend the Donetsk front. Just because Trump won the game in U.S. politics of sucking up to their puppet state more than Kamala, that doesn't mean Kamala didn't also suck up to Israel. There's no middle ground or neutrality on genocide. You are either with or against the Palestinian people. It's just that simple. And it's genuinely horrific to see the self-proclaimed leftists see Palestinians as a simple policy matter. For the politics of a country you don't even live in. Yeah, sorry for not taking accountability for not casting my vote off for genocide. Genuinely off.
Yes, if all the people who voted for Jill Stein voted for Kamala, she still would have lost. But this doesn't take into account all of the people who didn't vote at all because their favorite leftist creator discouraged them from voting for Kamala.
Yep, there's that finger pointing again, just like the rest of them.
Like I hopefully have made it clear, leftists are not the main reason that Kamala lost. I think the main reason she lost is that Democrats just did not run a good campaign. But leftists obviously partially contributed to her losing. If you have a massive platform and you use that platform to discourage people for voting for one of the candidates in a two-party system, you are helping the other candidate win.
As if we weren't clamoring to vote for Wester Stein.
This is just reality. Please take your head out of your ass and accept reality. I just don't understand why people don't want to take responsibility for the consequences of their actions.
I'd be happy to stop someone from voting for this, or this, or this, or maybe even this. Yeah, take a good long look and tell me you still want to vote for the Democrats.
To let outright fascists take power because you refuse to vote for someone who supports Israel. Just own it. You believe that the end...
Sending weapons to an openly fascist ethno-nationalist state like Trump and Kamala do doesn't make a person a fascist? Oh, okay, buddy, keep puffing the copium.
Believe that the ends do not justify the means.
I can think of when they did.
And that even though Trump is going to be way worse for Palestine, you think it was worth letting him take power because of your moral line in the sand.
My god, Ryan's personality always just comes off as performative and condescending as all hell in this video, and if you've watched other content by then, you can clearly see what I'm talking about. They're also acting as if the left wasn't equally attacking Trump. Yeah, believe it or not, you can attack one side that's supporting the other. Jeez, it's like talking to a dark MAGA bro all over again.
I highly disagree with this moral framework. I think this is an example of deontological ethics, which is the belief that the morality of an action depends on whether or not it violates universal moral laws instead of on whether or not the outcome of an action leads to more harm.
Yeah, I think supporting this violates morality. How many times do I have to say it?
You believe it's more important to not vote for someone who supports genocide than it is to keep Trump out of power, even though he wants to make the genocide worse. You were faced with the trolley problem and you refused to pull the lever. Just own it.
Yeah, because I prefer to be not directly supporting this genocide one way or another.
So I have solved this little political dilemma for myself in a very simple way. On election day, I stay home. I don't vote. Fuck them. Fuck them. I don't vote. Two reasons I don't vote. First of all, it's meaningless. This country was bought and sold and paid for a long time ago. The shit they shuffle around every 4 years doesn't mean a fucking thing. And secondly, I don't vote because I believe if you vote, you have no right to complain. People like to twist that around, I know. They say, well, if you don't vote, you have no right to complain. But where's the logic in that? If you vote, and you elect dishonest, incompetent people, and they get into office and screw everything up, well, you are responsible for what they have done. You caused the problem. You voted them in. You have no right to complain. I, on the other hand, who did not vote, who in fact did not even leave the house on election day, am in no way responsible for what these people have done and have every right to complain as loud as I want about the mess you created that I had nothing to do with.
Rest in peace to the goat, Carlin, by the way.
But don't sit here and act like you played absolutely no role in helping Trump take power. That is delusional.
Yeah, I didn't. What's your point? Want to know who directly opposed it? Jill Stein voters.
It is true that most of the blame falls on Democrats for Kamala losing, but it is also true that some of the blame falls on leftists. And I also think that part of the reason Trump won is because both the leftists...
Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's funny. It's fucking destiny. It's destiny. It's destiny.
Liberals are so obsessed with pointing blame at each other instead of fighting the fucking outright fascist right in front of your fucking face.
I see two fascists here. What about you, Ryan Beard? Or does it take one to know one, not applying this instance?
You and who believes that electing Kamala was the lesser of two evils is a liberal.
It literally does. If you vote for a liberal, all because of lesser evilism, when the lesser evil isn't even that lesser, but that's besides the point. You are a liberal.
I am a democratic socialist. I am anti-capitalist, and I believe in left-wing social values.
Yeah, the ideology that's been hijacked by suck Dems and whose party worked with the Democrats and up until recently, and most young members are just pink flag Dems.
I am anti-capitalist, and I believe in left-wing social values.
Me too, do you see me voting for the fascist?
By basically every definition of leftism, I am a leftist. But I cannot tell you how many people online have accused me of being a liberal because I thought it was preferable to elect Kamala than to elect a fascist rapist.
Yeah, I'm one of those accusers. I completely agree with Sir Walter Yellow 3884. What the f is his username here, assuming he's not a conservative.
Elect a fascist rapist.
We've already established these two are open fascists, but hey, wanna hear a cool story?
I share the same opinion as Angela Davis and Noam Chomsky when it comes to voting.
Chomsky! Noam Chomsky! Noam Chomsky, the Russophilic Bosnian genocide denier, incestuous guy who's butts with Epstein. What a great figure to define a leftist movement for generations to come. We shall build the World Socialist Republic in his name. Dude. Chomsky's not only an idiot, and he has no actual politics other than just vaguely following a line of anti-Americanism, not saying it's an inherently bad thing, and declaring yourself to be, like, openly as your main influence is just... God, it's sad. It's sad, dude. It's genuinely sad, dude. I thought it was bad that MLs and NatComs were bordering the mainstream part of the... I thought it was bad that MLs and NatComs were becoming the mainstream part of the left, but just... Chomskyites, really? Rosa Luxemburg has already stated that revolution was the way to go. Okay, Chomsky completely spits in the face of that. He's a spineless figure who's not only barely an anarchist, see Russia stuff here, but barely a leftist. He not only supported the Khmer Rouge, which literally had to be invaded by a fellow communist Vietnam to stop it, supported Serbia's genocide against the Bosnian people solely because it opposed U.S. interest, and by the way, I'm not justifying the bombings of Belgrade, NATO should absolutely focus more on army targets only, but also supports the modern fascist, capitalist, imperialist, and objectively even National Socialist Russian Federation, and undermines Ukraine's not only right to defend itself, but right to hold its own territory. So, sorry for even thinking that maybe we shouldn't listen to this guy when it comes to something as basic as reform or revolution, as if the question wasn't already answered 100 years ago. This doesn't prove you as a lefty. It proves you as anything but a one. Omene nema Bosnie, Slava Ukraine, Herium Slava.
If you think that the only real leftists are Marxist-Leninist Maoists who spend every night jerking off to Das Kapital, you are free to think that, but all you're doing is hurting your own movement by participating in pointless gatekeeping that makes no one want to join your side. Do now? Well, we get our fucking shit together. The leftist infighting, the liberal versus leftist fighting, I don't think we really have the luxury to focus on that shit anymore.
1. We're not brothers. Liberals and leftists are not even close. You clearly showed yourself aligned with the liberals, and you're clearly not a real lefty or anything resembling it. And 2, we shouldn't resist Trump. In the way that most people are right now. Let me explain. Also, thirdly... electing.
The number one priority for the next 4 years is resisting Donald Trump, participating in mutual aid, and bringing as many people as possible over to our side.
Mutual aid. This is a guy who's supporting the statist and fascist, and claiming to be a leftist using the term mutual aid. Ryan, just pick up Kropotkin already, I'm begging you.
We have a chance at electing someone like Bernie in 2028. Unfortunately, I don't think a leftist revolution is going to happen in the next 4 years because the vast majority of people just don't support leftism.
More defeatism. Again, God's a broken record. You sound like me when I was a national communist and reformist for some reason.
So our next step has to be convincing a bunch of people to take our side. And I think that we can do that when people start seeing how horrible the country gets under this Republican administration.
He's just almost there. They're just almost there. I hope.
And don't you dare fucking take the doomer black pill right now.
You clearly have.
The worst possible time to do that. Right now, the lives of trans people and black people and women and Latino people in America are directly on the line.
I have several solutions.
We need to get some fucking unity, because right now, the right wing has a ton of unity.
I'll cut you some slack because this is right after the election, but wow.
And they are coming to fuck you. And I don't know about you, but I do not want the right wing to fuck me.
I mean... So, this entire video isn't anything I haven't seen before. It's just an amalgamation of all of it coming from the most condescending voice I've ever heard next to Spooky Scary Socialist. But... hey, why shouldn't I give my own insight onto things? I'm gonna be honest, I don't usually write scripts for videos, but for this one I felt like I have to because it's more professional. So, forgive me if my past recordings haven't really been the most exciting as my other ones, because I'm gonna be real with you, I've been reading off a Google document this entire time. But what should we do as the modern left under the Trump administration? I'd argue we should keep up vocal resistance and showing how much of a fucking fraud Trump is, along with all of his cronies, to the general people, while also advancing our own socialist and revolutionary needs. I can't really explain in detail too much how this would work, because, YouTube wouldn't like that, but... listen, But what we could use right now is organizing, unionizing, and learning how to defend ourselves as leftists and how to spread our message to the general public. That's in as short terms I can get at. This is a very complicated situation discussing what we should do. But I'll leave it to you to decide. I should be teaching you how to think, not what to think. With all that being said, with everything here being said,